Sarah.
Sure.
Huh? Well, let's see. Show. Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, Susan, we could,
Okay.
we could start. Yeah.
Yep, let's get going. Thanks, everybody. This is the benefits of modern times, I guess. We can do this in our homes. So, as you know, this is just a presentation. There's no votes or anything, but it's a presentation. So people are encouraged to ask questions, obviously. Maureen, do you want to start us off in prayer, please?
Sure. Let's be together in prayer. Gracious God, we are grateful to be able to gather this way online, which wasn't possible before COVID. As much as COVID brought some angst into our lives, we are grateful for having this be a remnant that we can gather this way as a community and be together for worship as well this morning. God, we invite you into our presence for this meeting as we talk about all the wonderful things that are going on in our church and look ahead to the future. May we be reminded that in all our mundane and ordinary and monumentous decisions, that we remember to keep you in the conversation, to check in with you, and to remind ourselves that we are not alone, especially when things seem uncertain or when everything we do or say seems weighty. May we know that we have your comfort, your wisdom, and your grace to always rely on. We ask that you be with all of those gathering from afar this morning. If anybody ventures out, may they be safe. And we listen for your still small voice in this conversation and your loud, exuberant voice as well. And we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Thanks, Maureen.
All right, Mr. Doug.
All right.
This is pretty much your show.
Well, no, it's a group effort. So
Okay. Oh yeah, look, there's more than one name on there.
just a reminder, we're all on Zoom. So if at any time anyone has anything they'd like to add or say, feel free to speak right up. We'll all hear it. It'd probably be a good idea though, especially if you have dogs or power equipment running in the background to go on mute. But otherwise, just speak up if you have anything you'd like to add. It's our kind of standard agenda. We're going to start out with Pastor Maureen. She's going to give us the good news of this last year, and there's a lot of that. And then Todd is going to go over the financial status that we're at right now, and then I'll go over what it looks like it's going to be for our next fiscal year, which starts on June of this year, and then we'll have a brief stewardship at the end. So, Maureen, if you'd like to take it, that would be great.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of good news to report on this year, as always. We lifted up the live streaming already. We wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have our live stream, which we got during COVID. So we're grateful for it on mornings like this, but any Sunday, we keep getting feedback from people that even after they returned from COVID and they were hoping that people would ditch the live stream and show up in person, they found a use for it themselves when they couldn't get out or they had back issues or knee issues. They were just so grateful to be able to gather this way. So regularly, we have about 20 who watch on Facebook every Sunday morning. And on YouTube, we get to about 30 to 40 every week. So that's pretty good turnout for online, considering our in-person attendance is between 80 and over 100 every Sunday. So people are feeling more connected than they were before because they actually attend more often because they're able to watch during the week, especially if they're away on a Sunday. So we are grateful for our live stream. We continue to welcome new members. We welcomed 10 officially this past year. We've had 18 new couples or families who've joined us in the spring and the fall, including 12 new people since December alone. So if you're seeing new faces, they're regularly attending. They're showing up at coffee hour and bringing their kids to our church school. So It's great energy, and it's people who have been in our community for years or people who have recently moved in. They are finding us through word of mouth, through our live stream. So there's a lot to celebrate as far as visitors and new members. Um, our church school is thriving. One of the things the new people mention is they love seeing all the kids and youth in our worship and in our church and in our coffee hour. This year we formed a new position after Kevin left as our associate pastor last year. We have our new director of youth ministries, so it's Larissa Riley, who did a wonderful job for many years as our church school coordinator. Now she's taken on our youth programs as well. And we cannot say enough good things about you, Larissa. You're just so wonderful, and you bring so much energy to this congregation and for our families and youth. We had another successful VBS this past summer, our third year in a row, with over 50 children and youth attending. People keep coming back for that, and we're looking forward to another one this summer. We've got 2 active youth groups, including our senior youth group, which was basically defunct last year. So if you build it, they will come, as Larissa found out. So we've got an active group, and a lot of them are going on the mission trip. So we're excited about supporting them this year. Larissa is leading confirmation as well, along with Pastor Shelley. And we haven't mentioned Pastor Shelley. She is our student minister. We had an opportunity to enter into this ministry with the New Hampshire Conference to support a student minister. And she's been a wonderful addition to our congregation with her energy, not just with confirmation and in worship, but she started her own Saturday worship service as well. She's had 3 of them so far, and they are well attended by people who aren't even part of our church. So if you're ever around on the 3rd Saturday of the month at 5 p.m., come on down to the sanctuary and experience that worship. We've also been able to celebrate Charlotte as our new settled associate pastor. She officially joined us in October, bringing all the gifts of ministry that she has. She is pastoral care extraordinaire. So Charlotte is on top of things with our pastoral care concerns, with visits and phone calls and dropping off soup on people's doorsteps. So in addition to the preaching that she does and leading memorial services. So I am grateful to have Charlotte here, and I'm sure all of us are as well. And just to let you all know that we will officially be installing Charlotte as our associate pastor on March 23rd at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a celebration for our entire association. So I hope you can join us. The choir will be here. We'll have visiting clergy. Mary Ludi will be preaching. So we can officially celebrate Charlotte being part of our church. Our music programs are on the list every year because they are fabulous. Michael and Sarah just continue to go above and beyond in all that they do for our music. Sarah is leading 3 choirs, our bell choir, our chancel choir, our youth choir. So she is running to and fro on Sunday mornings and Thursday evenings. And we are just so blessed to have both of them, and all of the members of our choirs are so gifted. And I love showing them off whenever we can with a celebration like coming up for the installation. Community outreach, our Home Starter program had 109 client referrals and served over 100 people this past year, taking in close to 200 donations. And that's a lot of logistics. If you are not involved with it at all, a lot of picking up and dropping off and storage and tracking and delivering. So if you can be a part of that program, please let us know. But it is something to celebrate, and it's going on behind the scenes without many of us even seeing it. So it's a wonderful program. One thing that's not on here is our fundraising. So I just want to lift up our fundraising teams for all the wonderful work they did this past year, bringing our house tour back, which was very successful, and our breakfast with Santa. All the things that we do together at our church, the things that are not even on this list, are worth celebrating. So you'll hear more when we send out the good news letter with the stewardship letter. But those are just the highlights of the year that we're lifting up this morning. So, and thanks, Doug, for helping put that list together.
Yeah, or most of it anyway. Okay, well, thanks, Maureen. Okay, it's on to the budget information. And this is all put together by the budget team. Todd Whitney is our chair. He's been chair for the last couple of years. I'm not sure what we do without him. Paul Spees is on here, another great contributor. Ken Bell is our treasurer, and myself is included as well. So the next item we were going to talk about is our current financial status, and I'm going to pass that on to Todd to go over that. So if you're all set, Todd, I'll.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go over our current fiscal year status as of the end of January. So from an income perspective, in total, we are at $303K. That's above our budget, which is $293K. So almost $10K above budget at this point from total income. Both pledges and other income are above budget, and we're about right on budget with non-pledge and loose plate. From an expense perspective, we currently are at $284K. That's compared to a budget of $283K, so pretty much right on budget, just $461 ahead of the spend. Primarily staff and programs are below budget by about 1.8K each, and building and office is a little ahead of spend. I think in the office space, Doug, we had a recent need to purchase a new copier. Our old one had been around forever and ever and ever. So we have done that within this year, even though we hadn't budgeted for it. So we're a little overspent there. But that's actually going to bring some savings for us in the future because we have a much newer copier. We have a better agreement on service, so a lot lower service plan than we had on the older one. So overall for the year, our current net income is 19K. That's as compared to our budget of 10K. So we're 9K ahead of income at this point in the year. Doug, do you want to move on to the next slide?
Sure.
Unbudgeted.
From a balance sheet perspective, our investments, we currently have $709,000, and that's spread between our endowment, Jackson Special Ministry Fund. In our bank accounts, between our money market and checking accounts, we have 148K. 81K of that is permanently restricted, and 26, almost 27K is temporarily restricted. So that gives us working cash of about 40K. Just noting here that we do have a loan out for $18,250 to cover the roof repairs. That's a 5-year payback. At this point, we have not paying it back, but we will. We have plans to start that payback in the coming year. So note that 40K working capital is about 5 weeks of operating expenses. I think if I compare that to last year at this time when we were presenting to you, we were more like 3 weeks worth of working capital at that point. So we're in a little bit better position than we were in the previous year at this time. And working cash is cash minus those things that are set aside through restricted either permanent or temporary accounts. Doug, do you want to move on to the next slide? All right. Our never-ending capital campaign, which is actually ending. We finished the windows in the sanctuary, including painting of the sashes and so our window project is complete, and we actually came in about 29K, I believe, Doug, ahead of schedule.
Right.
So we spent less than we had been budgeting for. The only thing that's still open is just a little bit of work that we need to do in the parsonage, about $3,600. That was part of the parsonage siding and painting budget. If you move on to the, before you move on, so what that means for us is we currently have 37,000, which is one of the permanent restricted amounts that we talk about. And we only plan to spend about 3,600 of that. So we will have an overall surplus as we close out the capital budget of $33,775. Doug, you can go ahead. Yep, thank you. So this is just giving you a reminder of all the projects that we had and what we spent and what's remaining open. As I mentioned, that 30K or 29,947 is not going to be spent. That's going to be a underspent project. And then the 3,600 is to complete some work that we have on the screen porch for the parsonage. Some of the members from the capital team are going to meet next week and talk about ideas and options that we want to present for how we'll close out the campaign and how we'll leave that 33K surplus to go forward. Questions on this year's budget or on the capital campaign? All right, thank you.
Todd, can I ask a question? This is Steve Bosanowski.
Certainly.
Sure.
So we're ahead for pledges. Does that mean that people are just paying faster than you anticipated, or that we've gotten more pledges in?
It typically means where people are paying pledges in advance, so faster than we anticipated.
Thank you.
There's some year-end tax giving too that's
Right.
encourages receipts in December.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest, Steve, this is the first year I can recall that at no point did we send notes or messages or letters from our team asking people to accelerate, which we have had to do in the past. So we've been in a good position. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Well, all right, now it's on for the preliminary budget, what we think we're going to need for the next fiscal year, which starts on June 1st. Before we do the budget, we're going to try a projection of where we think we're going to be at the end of the year. This is our best guess right at the moment. I mean, these numbers are estimates at best. So, but if we take a look at the current budget, we should be having a net income of about $4,500 with the working cash we started out with at the end of May in 2024. That gives us probably about a 25.5K working cash, which is good. It's a little bit more than what we started with. So we've added obviously the $4,500 net. We've looked at income and expenses, tried to project the low and high levels for both. For income, we're looking at it could be as much as 4,000 less than what we have budgeted. But on the high end, it could be quite a bit higher, about a 7K higher. And that's just variations in income we're expecting. Is primarily driven by the pledging. Expenses were both the low end and the high end. It looks like we're going to be higher than what we had anticipated last year for the budget. A lot of that is things kind of out of our control, like how much more snow we're going to get this year and the grounds work it does with that. Plus the printer, that copier that Todd referenced, that was about almost a $7,000 unplanned for expense. So if you go and look at the kind of the spread in the high income, low expense, or the low income, high expense, you kind of get an idea what the range of our net income could be. So in the best case, we think it's probably going to be almost $8,000. Worst case, everything goes much more expensive and income is less. We could be seeing a deficit of almost $9,600. But when you work in what we started out with working cash, we're still in the black. The best case estimate, and again, it's just an estimate, we could be in the 27,750 kind of range for working cash. Or if things are a lot more expensive than we thought, or pledges go down, then it could be about 11K. But either way, we are still in the black, and we're not we're in good shape as far as that goes. And these are really rough estimates too. I think we're probably going to be closer to the best case. The last 3 years, we've underrun our expenses, kind of an average of about $3,000. So, but we know we're going to probably overrun it a bit because of the copier, but I don't think it's going to be too significant. So I believe we're going to be closer to the best case. But there's 4 months left, so time will tell. A lot could happen. But so far, everything looks pretty good as far as that goes. All right, so that's where we think we're going to end up. And now it's on to the budget for next year. And I'm sure, as all you know, the budget team spends a lot of time in the November timeframe, and January too, developing a budget. We start out trying to put together a subsistence budget. We take all the income and expenses for this year. We go line item by line item, take a look at it, evaluate it versus the last few years of actuals to see if there's any sort of trend that helps us kind of pick up places where we probably should be increasing or potentially decreasing. We did find a couple of places where we did increase. I don't think we had any lowering of line items this year. Oh, well, actually, we did have one, but and then we also request the teams to give us their feedback, what they see as their needs for their budget for next year. And we got a lot of good inputs this year. We usually get good inputs. We got a lot this year from folks. They really took the time to look. So definitely appreciate that. So that's all been rolled in as well. And when we get this, the earlier, the better. It makes for a more accurate estimate for the budget for next year, which is great. The other thing we do is we do collect aspirational items, see what folks might think we need to add to the budget for next year over and above the normal things we have in there. And we have identified a couple of those. So once we've got all that together, the budget team puts together a preliminary budget for you to show to the congregation for next year. And we also use that to set stewardship campaign goals. So it's 2 points there. All right, well, this is where we're at for the what we think as the income for next year. Now we don't have don't know what the pledging is going to be, and we don't really project that. But what we do is start with what we had this current year, and the first 2 lines, the current year's pledge and pledges paid in advance, is exactly what we had budgeted for this current year. We did decrease the previous year's pledges. Last year, we got about $5,300 worth of money that way, and that wasn't normal. What those are is late pledges. Those are pledges for FY23. I mean, I'm sorry, FY24 that came in FY25. So we don't normally have that much. So we put it down to more of a typical level of $2,500. We held the non-pledge contribution steady. That's been pretty steady for years. We have noticed that the loose plate contributions have gone up quite a bit this year, so we increased it somewhat, about $1,000 for next year. The Women's Association, they had actually donated $12,000, but their pledge was $13,000. Their pledge was $12,000, so we left that level. They haven't decided what their pledge is going to be yet, so we may have a pleasant surprise there, but we'll see. Rental just goes up modestly. That's primarily the increase, the 4% increase rent for our tenant, the preschool in the village. And then the big jump is in the other income. The weddings and other income is pretty flat, but the big one is in the supplementary fundraising. This is thanks to the Christmas in Amherst Village. They raised $20,000 this year. And what we're doing is taking 18,000 of that, and we're going to roll that into our operating fund as of June 1st. We'll leave 2,000 in there for seed money for that team in case they need it for either another Christmas in Amherst Village or other uses. So bottom line is we're up about $15,000 from this current year for income, which is great. It's about a 3.6% increase. Okay, now on to the expenses. What we're doing there is we left the senior passers compensation package flat. The associate pastors has gone up about $10,000. And I'm going to talk about this a lot more later. This is a little misleading. The last 2 years, we have not had a 12-month associate pastor, and the role, the job description of the associate pastor has also changed a little bit, but we'll go into that a little bit more. Other staff members, this is a kind of a similar type thing. We have a new director of youth, which is something that we had not had before. So there's an increase there as well. And then there's a minor increase for in the miscellaneous staff expenses line items, and that's primarily the FICA increase. Program expensive has gone up about $1,700 this year. There's a lot of ups and downs in the various teams, and we'll go over that in detail a little bit later. But that's a modest amount going up. Building and grounds is primarily that's about $3,000 increase. That's primarily oil increases put in a 5%. Plus, we had some adjustments or corrections we had to make for our cleaning costs. Same thing with the parsons. That's just a 5% increase for the heating expense. And Todd referenced this earlier. We are expecting almost $1,000 reduction in the office expenses, and that is thanks to the new copier has a much better, much lower service fee. So we'll be saving money there, and we'll be saving money year after year after year, which is good. So when you add that all up, we're at about $44,418, and that's about a $22K increase over last year, which is about 5.6%. So although the income has gone up, I'm afraid the expenses have gone up, but just a little bit more right now as well. These are the charts I put up every year. We've got to have some sort of a pie chart. Again, just a reminder where the income comes from and where it all goes. If you add in the pledging and the non-pledge distributions, that's almost 90% of the total income. So it's all coming from the congregation, the vast bulk of it. And then the next biggest thing after those two would be our rent for our tenant. Expenses, again, that's 67% of our expenses goes to the entire staff, the pastors and all the other folks that work for the church. And the next biggest thing is the building and grounds for the church itself. Okay, as promised, I was going to go over the expense changes in a little bit more detailed. I'll start with the programs. Again, it's about a $1,700 increase. The diaconate last year had $1,200 for pulpit supply. We did not have a associate pastor when we went into this year, so we had added more for that, for guest ministers. We don't see where we need that, so we dropped $500 out of the budget. We still did leave some just in case, but the other thing is we have a member in discernment now with the church. That's Reed Cunningham. And one of the things that we're required to do as his home church is to share the cost of a UCC required evaluation. So our share of that is $500. That should happen sometime in the next fiscal year. So we did add that. Music tuning, we looked at that. That's overrun for multiple years now. So we bumped that up to what is actually being spent. I believe the cost of tuning is just going up and up each year. Printed music, we kind of got a compromise here. We added $50 more to the buying printed music, with the understanding that if any additional money is needed for that, which is quite likely, and that would come out of the Willard Parker Fund. Delegate expenses, we did not have anything budgeted for that this year. It's a new fee from the New Hampshire Conference for delegates to attend the annual meeting. So we did see that expense this year, so we added it in for next fiscal year, this FY 26. Fellowship asked for a very modest increase in their budget, and it was to help pay for snacks for the kiddos during fellowship. So it's a very modest request. So we certainly put that in. And another one that's is brand new, we didn't have before, is a youth group activities line item for the CE. They've been spending the CE and primarily Larissa's been spending a fair amount of money out of their own pockets as far as to support the activities with the group. You know, as snacks when they meet, they do have a number of outdoor activities. I think they went bowling just recently and whatnot. But it's things to, you know, make the experience with the children attending these better. So we put a button line item of 750 in for that to cover that. Building and grounds, it's modest increase of 5% inflation increase for oil. That's our best guess. Hopefully it's not that high, but we'll see. We still have 4 months to finalize that, and we should have a better handle on this come the May timeframe when we have our final budget to approve. Cleaning services, this is kind of to cover a mistake. We forgot to add in this year's budget, we forgot to add the cost for doing the deep clean and waxing that we do for the community room and the vestry. So we have added that for this year's budget. We're still way ahead of the game from what we had from our previous cleaning service. So, and then to the best of my knowledge, the new service is doing a fantastic job. The other thing that we needed to add was the cleaning supplies, because that was also not included with the cleaning service. So that's the $400. All right, let's see, keep going with the changes here. Fuel oil for the parsonage, same 5% increase. And I mentioned earlier, the office expenses was a savings with the better contract for the new copier. We're paying a lot less per page is what that ends up being. The staffing, also mentioned that, it's just FICA for a full 12 months for all the employees these days. We did not have that last year. Now we'll get into the staffing now. Associate pastor, like I said, went up $10,000. It's primarily because it's a 12 months position now. We have a director of youth ministries, which has gone up. We did put a partial in there. That's gone up another 10,000 too. Again, that's because it's a 12-month position. Larissa didn't start on that until October, I believe. No, I'll take that back. I think it was the 1st of September. It was Charlotte, as associate pastor, didn't start until October. And the church schools coordinator, that's all been rolled into the director of youth ministry. So that line item goes away. So there is a savings of $3,600 there. And we do have a wonderful nursing staff now. We had a placeholder last year of $1,500. Again, we weren't quite sure when that was going to start. It looks like this is going to be more like about a $2,100 cost. So it's a $600 off the what we had budgeted for this year. All right, well, this is to just give you a little bit more insight into the expenses for the Director of Youth Ministries and our associate pastor. What I try to do here is go back and compare our FY26 budget to the last time we had a full-time associate pastor, which was back in FY23. It was 3 years ago. That was the last year that Kate was with us. We spent a total of $88,000 to pay Kate full-time to be an associate pastor, and which included the youth programs. And then we also had $15,000 in for our church school coordinator. That was Larissa's role. And I take that back. It was $73,000 for the associate pastor, and then $15,000 for the church school coordinator. The total was $88,000 for those two positions, and that covered covered all our youth programs, church school, and a full-time associate pastor. Well, we now have a part-time associate pastor and a part-time director of youth ministries that's covering the same roles and responsibilities that we were asking Kate and Larissa to do as the church school coordinator. We're spending $41,600, $580 for our part-time associate pastor, and you can kind of compare the numbers there. And then with the director of youth ministries, it's $43,000. So yeah, those two up, we're at $84,890. So we're actually, although it looks like everything went way up, it was really because of the 12-month issue, and we've actually cut our staff expenses for this total role position by about $4,000. All right, let me go back. That's where we're at with the budget right now. Are there any questions or comments or anything that anybody would like to raise before we go on? Well, I'm not hearing anything, so
Doug, there is a question in the question box.
well, I can't see that.
chat
Will
box.
that
Oh.
person be able to verbalize the question?
Well, I can do it for you while I'm on. It says, how about using capital campaign surplus to paint the sanctuary ceiling and refinish the sanctuary floor? And that was submitted by Tom Worst.
Yeah, there are a lot of options. I mean, those are just two of the many things that we could do. Yeah, that needs to be worked out, and we're going to start doing that with the capital campaign team next week. Actually, figure out what's best. But there are a bazillion things we could be doing. And those are two very good suggestions. Anything else that comes to mind, or anything anybody like to raise?
Doug,
I have
this is Vicky, sorry. After sitting in all the town stuff, the deliberative sessions, I noticed you didn't say anything about health insurance. Do we have any, there's no increase? That seems to be a big thing around the town things.
Not that I know of. We'll probably won't know that until a little further into the year. I don't believe we all our health insurance is for two employees is through the UCC. So we'll definitely make sure that those rates have not gone up by the time we get to the final. But right now, I don't believe they have.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I just point this out. This is our best estimate right now. We have 4 months until the end of the year, and we'll definitely be continuing to do this to make sure we capture everything.
I have a question, Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
The money that was earmarked, if you will, or donated to the church for technology and maybe enhancing the recordings and the music and amplification and all of those things. Where do we stand with that? I get a lot of comments from people. First of all, today it really worked out well, Maureen, as far as the sound. but I get a lot of comments from people that say, oh, I hopped on the meeting, couldn't hear the bells, I only can hear 2 people in the chancel choir. I get those comments. I'm not saying that they're accurate. I'm just saying that, can we do something about maybe dropping some mics down, and can we move on this and maybe have it in place by next fall? Where are we with that?
Well, we don't necessarily have funds for that. We do have that special ministry fund that potentially could help in that area. I mean, that was one of the items that
Oh, okay.
it was communications technology. So we'd have to look at that. But yeah, we definitely need to do some upgrades to our live stream equipment. Not only adding some microphone type things and improve it for the sanctuary, but just the basic equipment is getting a little long in the tooth as well. It was most of it, with the exception of the camera and the controls that went with the camera, was donated items.
Okay. Well, while we have all of the people in here that are thinking about all these things, I would say, and I know this isn't a meeting, but that we really should bring in a professional to assess the amplification, and because I just think it's really important. We're trying to be open and having people come in and feel, when people are sitting, even in our sanctuary, and can't hear well, even just sitting 20 feet from because we have the microphones are not great, the lectern and pulpit, and they distort, and it just seems like it's just a piece that's not there. So
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I'd just like to touch on what Sarah was just saying. I can barely hear the choir at all. I can hear usually 1 or 2 of the sopranos singing, but it's hard to hear any of the music when you're watching it, from home. So Sarah, I agree with you that we really should do something, because I find it very frustrating.
Okay. Well, you know what? I don't mean to shut this off, but this kind of leads into the next chart pretty nicely. It might be a third aspiration.
See, I knew that.
item.
I knew I was giving you a segue.
Yeah,
See?
thank you very much, Lee. I appreciate that. So if there aren't any other questions or comments, I will go into that, and we can. We have 2 aspirational items. It sounds like maybe we have a third one coming up with acoustics and audio for the sanctuary and the live stream, which could potentially end up in here as well. But and we'll definitely look into that, because yeah, I mean that problem hasn't been that's not new. So, but the 2 items that we've identified so far is a sign in the front lawn. Mark Badley has been driving this one for us. The council's been talking about this for the last 6 months, I think. This is what he has come up with for a design with the sign manufacturer. General location where it would be. I think this is more or less to scale. It might be a little smaller than what the actual would be, but there are definitely limitations for signage that you can do on the Amherst Village. It's fairly limited. It can only be about 14 square feet. But it is a sign out by the flagpole. It would be I call it a pedestal. It's more like a raised bed type thing underneath it to kind of isolate the post from the grass, for make it easier to cut, and places to put potential lighting, and it might be a nice flower bed also. But with doing all that, it looks like it's about a $6,700 cost. The other item that we're suggesting is a very modest increase for our full-time and part-time staff. Last year we did 5% and 2% for the full-time and part-time respectively. This year we're talking about half of that, about 2.5% for the full-time, which would be Pastor Maureen and Andrea, and then 1.2% for everyone else. I'm trying to catch up, because the last few years inflation, as we all know, has been quite significant, and we were a little delinquent in getting the cost of living adjustments in for all our staff. So we're kind of trying to slowly catch up with that. So that's what we've budgeted in the aspirational line items. And that's all we've heard except with the audio for today. So with that, with this subsistence only, that sets a pledge target of about $349,000, which is pretty much what we did this current year. We did 346 and change. So it's virtually flat. When you add in the aspirational items, which we're calling our baseline, that's an increase of about $14,000. So we're looking to get up to about $360,600 for pledges this year, which is something I think is manageable, or but potentially we should be able to do that. So I think that was it for the yeah, it's on to stewardship. So were there any other further comments or questions on that before I kind of change direction a little bit here? Oh, okay. Sounds good. Well, we'll go on to stewardship then. It's the same team that we had last year. It's Linda Landon and Ingrid Michaelis. Pastor Maureen is working on this as well as myself. And we're definitely going to be looking for some volunteers to help communicate with the congregation once the campaign goes. So hopefully we'll be adding a few more names in here shortly. All right, well, this is kind of the history of what we've done in the past years, with this current year, FY25 being the highest amount of money raised, 346,000 that we've seen in 10 years. And I'm afraid, although it was the highest money raised, it was the lowest participation level in 10 years also, although FY21 came in pretty close at 111. So again, we're looking at 360,000 for pledges for a balanced budget, and we really want to see what we can do about getting the participation up. If we got the participation up to 125,000, we probably wouldn't have to ask for any increase whatsoever. We probably get more than we're looking for. So I mean, it's really important to do what we can to get as many people to sign up to help the church pledge-wise as possible. But it's a modest increase. This is quite a bit lower than what we've been asking for in the last few years. I think we were around 12% ask from the previous year. It was in that same order of magnitude back 2 years ago as well.
Doug, can I just raise a point here? This is kind of a good time to do it.
Sure.
Very good news in terms of new attendees, new membership, enthusiasm and all. The one thing that I think we need is an increase in the amount of people actually participating in various parts of the church administration. And you know, it's not unusual. New people are a little hesitant to step in. They don't really know what they're getting into. But we ought to do a little focus on a little outreach to some of these people. I think they get intimidated without really knowing exactly what we might be asking them to do and whatnot. But I've found in the past, particularly in our story, that when we were asked to and got engaged in the church, our giving went straight up. You know, it's part of the experience of being a member of the church. So
yeah. No, that's a great point, Paul. Being included as much as possible everywhere you can is only a plus for everybody involved. All right, we'll just give you a heads up on what the stewardship campaign timeline is going to be. Obviously, today we're doing the preliminary budget where we set the goal for the pledging. As Maureen mentioned, she's working on a good newsletter that should go out by the end of the week. The week of March 2nd, the pledge letters and pledge cards will be mailed or mailed and emailed, I think, to everyone. We picked the Faith Promise Sunday as April 6th this year, where we can be returning pledge cards during the service. And after that, the pledge campaign continues. The pledge campaign really starts now, but it starts for sure when the pledge letters are out. And then we'll hopefully wrap it all up. We'll have all the good news on how well we did with the pledging, and we'll roll that into the budgets and present that on May 18th at our annual meeting. So that's what we're looking for as far as things to do for the stewardship campaign this year.
Thank you, Doug. We've come a long way from that $60,000 budget deficit, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah, we have. No, the finances for the church have been very encouraging the last few years, for sure.
Doug?
Yep.
Yeah, Judy Dunbar. Could
Hi,
you
Judy.
remind us, please, who's on the capital campaign committee? As you guys will be talking about what to do with that money. And while I'm at it, I would just like to put in a very loud pitch for renovating, upgrading the 2 bathrooms in the kitchen in the parsonage. We haven't done anything in there in a long, long, long time. I know Maureen and Stephanie will never make a complaint. I don't labor under that disability, so.
Okay. No, one of the things that the capital campaign team is going to be doing is going through all these projects. And honestly, there's probably a list of 20,
I'm sure.
25 items on that.
I'm
And
sure,
those
but-
are on there. The things that Tom brought up are on there, and there's a bunch more. There's a lot of brainstorming that needs to go on in doing that. We'd love to do each and every one of those, but I'm afraid that our surplus is not going to support it.
I get it.
Yeah, and there's other ideas as well for the monies left over. It would be nice to have some money put aside that we could for a rainy day type thing as well. But we'll be doing a lot of thinking about that, and we'll definitely be in touch. Communicate with the congregation the progress we're making, and we hope to have some solid recommendations or proposals, put it that way, for the congregation to approve at the annual meeting.
And again, can you just remind us who's on the committee?
Yeah, I can give you the list, Judy.
Oh, thanks.
Myself, Doug, Paul and Sue Spees, Kathy Skoglin, and Susan Holden, and then Pastor Maureen will be joining us for
Right.
the call this week.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, this is Sue Manchester. This might not be a bad time to add a newbie. It's kind of a pleasant thing to do, but not easy to spend money. But it might be a nice way to get, apropos of what Paul Spees said, a newbie involved as well.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea, Susan. And actually, that's part of our discussions is, do we need to bring how many more new people, whether new members or whatever, into this for the discussions as well.
Right. And we may not necessarily come out of the meeting saying this is what we think it should be spent on. We may come out of the meeting thinking it's prudent for us to keep it as a capital reserve.
Right.
Something that occurs in the future.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm just saying it's a good way
or some
to,
combination.
yeah,
It
I'm
is,
just saying
yeah.
it's whatever you decide. And obviously the congregation will bless it, but it's a nice, the first committee I ever was on was the building committee. And that's because I asked a question at one of the meetings and Skip Skoglin just lomped onto me. But I'm saying, as Paul said, that's how you get involved. It's kind of an easy lift for people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, not wanting to exclude anyone. Actually, maybe it's just me, but I was thinking, should we say hoping, that we actually would be closing the capital campaign team in the near future.
No, no, I
Using
agree.
the- Right,
Agree.
so part of our conversation is about how best to do that as well.
Right. Yeah, we've got a lot of things to kind of talk over and figure out, as far as that goes.
But
But
we
it's all
would
good
welcome,
stuff.
yeah, if there's someone who's wanting to participate in that conversation, we would welcome a new voice.
Pretty soon we'll be getting ready for the next capital campaign, right?
Maybe.
Mute her, somebody mute her.
Yeah, way to scare him off.
Yeah, don't do that.
All right, well, I think we're all set, so I'm gonna get rid of this and we can keep talking. This is for all you NASCAR fans. Okay.
I hope you have snow tires on that car, Doug.
Well, I don't think it's snowing down in Daytona Beach, I hope. I think that's what's going on today. They're driving around in circles as we speak, probably.
I know the feeling.
Anything else while we're all together that we might like to talk about, or?
Doug, I just want another voice to support Sarah with the audio for music. I do watch on YouTube, and I miss hearing the piano and the bell choir because of the lack of availability of good audio.
Yeah.
I think it would be really nice if we could improve that section.
Yeah, no, we got to get going on that. This has been hanging out for a while there. There are definitely improvements that we can make.
And a thank you to your team for all that you do in this presentation, especially.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, I
Very
couldn't-
well done.
This is
Yep.
Heather.
Have we talked about a raise for the team, Doug? Or is that in the fine print at the bottom?
Heather wants to say something.
I
think.
couldn't catch who was speaking
Oh.
to seconding the issue about not being able to hear the choir.
Well, that was
Joan
Joan
Eggerson.
Eggerson, yeah.
Joan.
John, okay, thank you.
And Lee Bally mentioned it earlier.
I caught that, but I couldn't see who was speaking
Yeah, okay,
the second time. Thank you.
right.
And just to put a plug in for our widening our welcome team, they've also been discussing how we can make our sanctuary more accessible to folks. And part of that is in improving the sound system, the audio on the live stream, but also for folks who have hearing aids, possibly putting in a loop system that people can connect right to their hearing aids or have a device that they can wear during worship. There's many things that we can do. We have a contact at the conference who helped us with the live stream. It's part of his ministry to help churches with this, to get on board with the technology and the cost. So we're currently talking to that person, and the WOW team will work with whatever sub-team of the trustees is put together to talk about what we can do to improve
that's great.
welcome. Mhm.
That's great.
Perfect.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, we think we're
We're
done.
good. Thank you all.
Pastor Maureen, you want to just give us a quick goodbye prayer?
Sure. Gracious God, we are grateful for feeling your presence in our meeting with us this evening. We're grateful for all the faces and the voices that we've seen and heard today. We are a thriving church, a vibrant church, and all of that is down to the wonderful people we have who love this church, who give their time, passion, and energy. But it's down to you as well, God, oh God, that we hear your voice, that we move in your way, that we follow Jesus in this world, even when it is swimming against the current, swimming against the stream. May we be your presence of compassion, grace, and love in the world. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, budget
Thanks,
people.
everybody, for joining.
Great
Thanks,
job.
everybody.
Great job, Doug.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Doug.
Take care, everybody.
Great
Bye.
sermon today, Maureen.
It was good.
Yes.
Well, and could hear it all.
Bye.
Good night.